Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
So I'd like to introduce to you Troy Munson. He is a chiropractor down in Orting, and he is a wellness chiropractor, and he's here to talk about nutrition and ways that it can help benefit you if you are working with anxiety and depression. So I will turn it over.
Thank you. When I was 9 years old, I was in third grade and I was reading. I had a massive concussion. And in fourth grade, I moved to Washington from Phoenix. And they put me in a fourth grade class, and the teacher asked me, well, can you read this for me? And I remember thinking I could read it. And when I went to read, I realized I couldn't read. And with exasperation, this teacher, threw up her hands and said, you can't read? And I had to admit, I guess I can't. And I had to start relearning how to read in the fourth grade, when everybody else knew how to read. How do you think that made me feel? Sad. Yes. Very frustrated, concerned. And at that point, I had to wrestle with some things that we're going to talk about today in this class. And so we all have things that have happened to us that may have not been the greatest in the world that have happened to an individual, but each of us made decisions within our own mind about who we are and what we are. And we're going to talk about how to undo some of those things. I want to give you another example. I was on a swim team at age 7 in Phoenix because it's hot, and what does everybody do in Phoenix? We swim. And so on a swim team, we would practice in the beginning with the older kids, and the 15-year-olds would swim right over the top of me. Now, I am this big strapping guy now, but back then I was quite small for a 7-year-old. And so I literally had 3 people swim right over the top of me, and I felt like I was going to drown. And I noticed that right after that, years later, that when I looked back on it, I didn't want to go to swim practice anymore. Why? Scary. No kidding, it was scary. But what did I believe about myself at that point?
You thought you were going to drown.
Sure. Definitely thought I was going to drown. Did I believe these people cared about me? No. So what did I feel that way? Like nothing. I felt like I was insignificant. I didn't learn later in life that belief was floating around in my head. How many of you want to believe that I'm insignificant floating around in your head? None of us. Okay? And so you have a chance and opportunity to fix some of these things. We're going to talk about how to do that. So we're going to unpack your mind at this point and kind of show you some old things. Does that sound exciting to you? If we dig into some of your beliefs and get rid of them, does it change who you are as a person? A little bit, but it helps you be more out there and be more safe and secure. How many of you want to judge me and call me short? You might. How many of you want to call me balding? I noticed since I'm getting older, it's like thinning. I don't want to be judged, but yet we're all judging each other all the time. We're going to talk about that in just a moment as well. We're going to unpack judgment. We're going to unpack condemnation, all those things that seem to be pushed upon us. We're also going to talk about nutrition. How many think nutrition has an important role in how we feel? It does. In your packets, the first part, this is belief breakthrough. It's something that I'll do with some clients when they have some tough, difficult things. I'm going to show you how to use it. I don't expect you to use it right away, but I'm going to give you something more simple to do. So, how many of you like where you are right now in life? A couple? Just where you are generally. Everything's going for you and you feel like everything's good. Okay. How many of you know people that it seems like everything works for them? Anybody know people like that? We all know people like that. And I want you to know that there's people out there that think everything is going right for you. Does that seem surprising to you? There are people that look up to you, believe it or not. There are people that look up to me. Okay? They're all out there. We have people that we look up to. I have people that I look up to. That I'm thinking, man, everything just works out for them. But at every level, even though we have beliefs that don't necessarily do that, we all have people that look up to us. So I want to unpack some more belief stuff. Let's do something a little bit more simple before we jump into this. Now, how many of you found yourself in a situation that you don't particularly care for? We've all been there. Have you, even right now, do you have some things going on where in your mind you have this idea of what's going to happen? You've kind of invented stuff in your own mind. Are those things actually true? Maybe. That's true, maybe. Will they actually go like that? How many of you think I thought about this talk and wondered how many people will be here and how is this talk going to go? I did. How many of you think that I did worst case scenario and best case scenario in my mind? I did. I tried to prepare as best I could. But in the end, I tried to release it because all of you right now are thinking things. And because you're thinking things, we're all interconnected and you get to drive this talk. It's really quite fun. I'll get to a talk and I have an idea of how it's going to go and it goes completely in another direction. Because all of you matter. All of you need to hear things that may be in my brain that need to come out and go to each one of you in a way that you will hear and take deep and realize, you know what? I'm magnificent and great and amazing. How many of you have struggles right now, problems that are facing you right now as we speak? Great. This is a perfect example. Let's do the first thing that we can do. I want you to imagine, everybody close your eyes. I want you to imagine, what if there was no past in your mind? You didn't have anything that you worried about from the past, and there was nothing in the future that you had to worry about right now. What would that feel like? Amazing. Glorious. What was that? Empty. We'll talk about that. Yes? Tranquil. I love it. Peace. Peaceful. Now, right here, do you realize none of you have any problems? You may not believe me. They might be waiting for you outside this classroom. But right now, right here, you don't have anything to worry about. And it is peaceful. When your mind stops, how do you feel? Peaceful. Peace is quite joyful too. So happiness is your wiring. Think about that. How many of you feel like unhappiness is kind of my wiring? I just feel unhappy most of the time. Some of you may feel that way. But those are your thoughts that are running that people have put there that aren't actually you. And when you let go of all those thoughts, you begin to actually realize, you know what, things can be quite peaceful. They can be quite calm. They can be quite good. And it's important that you begin on that foundation because that's who you are. We're not wired for unhappiness. What's better, laughing and giggling until your sides hurt with your friends or being really sad and unhappy? What would you like? The first one. That's our wiring. And I want you to get that really deep inside because that is actually where we are. So, we talked about what things are facing you right now. Now I'm going to ask you. You've invented things in your mind about what's possible going to happen to you, correct? Okay. Is that what you want? So write that question down. Is that what you want? Just that question. Please write it down because I didn't give you that sheet. Is that what you want? Some of my clients will put it in their phone and they ask themselves every single morning, is this what you want? What's the obvious question to that? Or the obvious answer, sorry. No, that is not what we want. Now, if I just left you there, we would be that emptiness that somebody had talked about over here. But now we have to follow it up with the most important question. What do you think that question is? What do you want? You must know what you do want, or you will not get anything that you do want. Okay? So if we shelve those things that are happening to us, but we don't do anything positive to try and change it, we're just simply getting more of the same. So the first question is what? Is this what you want? So I'll have this happen all the time. I'm driving down the road, and I think to myself, I wonder what it'd be like to pull into oncoming traffic. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what? And I have to ask myself, is that what you want? What's the obvious answer? No. And then I have to say, what do you want? And I will immediately out loud say, I want a beautiful, perfect, loving experience in life. Does it sound too much? Some of you are asking for things in your life that you're too great to demand this kind of unhappiness. And so I'm giving you a tool right now to begin to really paint a picture of what is your most ideal life. Nobody told me I could do this until I was 30. You all are light years ahead of me at this point. Think about that. If you start doing that right now, did you know that you could actually start a list in your phone that says, this is the qualities of my ideal mate? anybody ever tell you could do that? And as people come into your life, you can just look at your list and say, no. Well, maybe. No. You'll actually start having that happen, but nobody's told you that you could do that. You can. And anything. Does anybody know what they want to do for their lives? Anybody yet? You do? Awesome. A couple of you. I had no idea at 18. And yet, here I am now. And so these are things that as you paint that wonderful picture, it's okay if it changes, by the way. That doesn't mean you have failed. It's called growth. Do you think what I want now is different than what I wanted at 25? It is very different. And so we do expect you to change. You'll find those lists of things that you say, hey, this is really important to me in another individual that I'm going to date. And then all of a sudden those things change. You know what? Some of these are not so important anymore. But some of these are important. Begin that process. I have younger staff that work with me. I had one that was 21 a couple years ago. And I asked her, I said, do you know what you want in somebody? Because she was just out there floating. I could tell that she was very misdirected. And she began to write a list down, and she had a gentleman from the military that asked her, do you even know what you want in an individual? She pulled out her phone, and she read him the list. And he's like, wow, that made an impression on him. Do you know they're married now? You know, and so if you don't ask for something, you won't get it. Begin asking for stuff. Now, so we talked about, in our minds, we'll ask for really silly things like, oh, I'm probably going to fail this test. Is that what you want? And as you answer it out loud like you just did, that sets a tone. Do you know why wealthy people are often some of the most happy people? They have learned the power of no. They say no to most things in their life. No, you're not going to distract me from what I want. And so as you guys get a great idea of what it is you want, now you have direction. And that gives you purpose. And purpose gives us meaning. And meaning kind of helps us not feel so depressed. Because why do we get sometimes depressed? Because we don't know where we're going. We don't feel like we have any direction. Why are we anxious instead? Because again, we don't feel like we have a lot of direction. So belief breakthrough goes deeper into it. I'm going to give you an example of a client who was 7 years old, and she had a lot of anxiety, and I told her, I said, give me the last thing that caused you unhappiness. And she talked about an event where she walked into the bathroom at the YMCA and 3 girls looked at her and all busted up laughing. Now, were they actually laughing at her? Maybe. But she felt immediately embarrassed. And what did she do with that embarrassment? Internalized and stuffed it. And I said, how's that working out for you? Not so well. I said, now, let's imagine 20 years from now, you're 27, and your husband says something, and it semi-embarrasses you, and you blow up on him. Who's got the problem? She's like, I do. I said, yeah, because he didn't know he was walking into a time bomb because you believe something about yourself that he didn't know was in there. And we all have this, by the way. How many know people that are kind of hair trigger? Kind of react. Okay, they've had some things they're not handling. Does it make them wrong? Does it make us wrong? No. It just means that we have a person that is really crying out for love. Do you know everything that happens under the sun is either a cry for love or an act of love? Think about it. If I'm driving down the road and I don't know that I cut somebody off and he drives by me and flips me off, is that a cry for love or an act of love? Cry for love. Now, is it a good one? No. But now I could look at that and now I could become angry and then now I go do something to somebody else. And it just keeps getting passed on and passed on and passed on. Can you see how this works? It's really quite sad. And yet we're all trying to do what? What do we really want out of life? Happiness. People say, a good car. I said, why do you want a nice car? Well, because it'd be fun. Well, why would it be fun? What would that do for you? Well, it'd make me happy. Oh, you want happiness. Got it. We want happiness. Think about that. So now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. From belief breakthrough, this will go deeper as we get in there. So you can read some of the things. It is not easy. So I'm going to go back to the situation where the people swam over the top of me. I started working on that memory about 8 years ago. I thought, gosh, I think about this frequently, this memory of mine. I must have established some belief about myself. I tried to work on my father before he died. He would have none of it. My father will tell you that at 14 years of age, somebody was making fun of him in school. And I said, well, what